A Democratic congressman is demanding that the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, investigate a shady $54 million purchase of stock, just hours before Postmaster General Louis DeJoy announced his decision to award a company that he had bought stock in a very lucrative contract with the U.S. Postal Service. So now the company in question, of course, is Oshkosh Corporation. Now the deal given to them by DeJoy would be a 10-year contract in order to build gas-powered USPS mail vehicles. So now Representative Tim Ryan, who was looking into this, he wrote a letter to the acting SEC chair, Allison Heron Lee. Here's what it said, quote, "This contract was awarded to Oshkosh Corporation and is worth up to $6 billion. That is a gigantic government contract." All right. And so now he said, quote, "I write to pass along reports of what might be unusual trading of Oshkosh stock that took place less than 24 hours before Postmaster General Louis DeJoy publicly announced contract decision in front of a House panel on February 23rd. Specifically, an over $54 million purchase of OSK made 20 hours before Mr. DeJoy's announcement was brought to my attention on social media in news reports." So social media knew before everybody else, and news reports. So, and again, these are members of Congress. All right. Now, he continued, "Additionally, it is my understanding that the OSK stock rose significantly prior to the announcement. It's almost as if there was some sort of inside information, perhaps even sort of, insider trading going on here. I don't know. Seems interesting." Now, he said that given the gravity and serious implications of this contract, I'm writing to request that the Securities and Exchange Commission look into this issue as soon as possible. All right. So, wow. All right. Now, Ryan's letter comes after he joined two other Ohio Democrats, Marcy Kaptur and Sherrod Brown, in urging President Joe Biden to halt this contract deal over, of course, concerns about inappropriate political influence in the process. Well, I would say that, of course, this is absolutely inappropriate, and you'll probably agree once I give you the details. Because, look, this already looks pretty bad, okay? Buying stock and then having the stock rise before the announcement suggests that he had known beforehand that this was going to, well, obviously he made the decision beforehand and used that information to go and buy these stocks. He knew it was going to happen because he made the decision. Corrupt. Absolutely corrupt. So now it's almost as if he's corrupt or something. I don't know. Weird. But the details, again, get worse the more you know. Now, DeJoy and the other Trump-appointed governors at the USPS had selected Oshkosh for the contract over another company, Workhorse. So now, why the distinction? Why did they, choose one over the other? I mean, maybe Oshkosh was a better deal. You be the judge of this one. Now, Workhorse was a truck maker that actually had a bid that was expected to be approved. And what they were going to do is that once, they got approved the contract, they would replace the Postal Service's delivery vehicles with an all-electric fleet. Oh, okay. So doing something positive for the environment. Interesting. Now, as Bloomberg reported, Workhorse had initially been viewed as the favorite to win the contract, especially after Joe Biden had ordered the government to utilize emissions-free vehicles. Well, again, the USPS is government, so why, instead of going with this company, they ended up going with Oshkosh? Oh, because he bought stock. That's what it is. All right, so Oshkosh, like I said, won the bid last month with a fleet that will be mostly gas-powered. And, of course, as the kicker, DeJoy will now make money off his stock purchase if and when he chooses to sell or, of course, get dividends from this $6 billion contract. And, of course, as I mentioned, Oshkosh stock increased in value. So it's kind of a double whammy here. You've got corruption and pollution. Fascinating. So now don't tell me that if the Democrats did something similar, right, that it wouldn't be blown up all over conservative media. Hell, I'd be talking about it. All right. And I'd be like, hey, this is wrong. This seems like an insider trading deal and you shouldn't do stuff like that. But wait, they don't talk about this at all. Okay. Again, if it were Biden, Biden corruption, Cylindric 2.0, alternative energy fleet. Oh my God, look at how terrible this is. It's a swamp. But on Fox News now, well, it's silence about this. They're not talking about this at all. No, what they're doing is they're busy focusing on the genderless plastic potato. Okay? And that's what it is. Now, Tim Ryan went and talked about this to Bloomberg News. And here's what he said. He said, quote, "It definitely stinks and needs to be looked at into the highest levels. And the trading that preceded it, if that's not suspicious, I don't know what is." Somebody clearly knew something. To that, of course, they say, yeah, they knew. He knew. They all knew. Of course. So they love corruption. They hate electric vehicles. It's definitely spitting in the eye of Biden and the Democrats, of course. He's a Trump guy through and through, DeJoy is. And it's basically the MO now. For anybody who's left over from President Donald Trump, especially DeJoy and the postal governors, trash the post office, own the libs. That's what it is. All right. And now that has earned, of course, some pretty harsh rebukes. In fact, in a letter last week, Captor Brown and Ryan had said of DeJoy, even before this came to light, quote, "Postmaster DeJoy's tenure has been a disaster for the American people and the USPS's dedicated workforce, from ill-advised policies that have delayed the mail and life-saving medicines to seniors and veterans, to an utter disregard for the agency he leads. This week's announcement further calls into question his judgment, his ability to effectively run the USPS, and a short-sightedness at this agency that plays a critical role in our nation." Now, as much as I like this, it has strongly worded letter vibes. All right? Because that's what it is. It's a strongly worded letter. Because at this point, that's kind of all they got. Democrats need to do something about Louis DeJoy. Now, what can they do? Well, I mean, look, aside from an investigation by the SEC, which I think is pretty warranted in this case, the SEC has its own problems, understandable, but because it relies on political appointees. But at this point, Biden needs to get directly involved. Now, Biden, I think, needs to fire the governors appointed by the Trump administration and replace them with his own appointees. And that's very important, right? Because right now, understand that how it works, DeJoy is not a political appointee by the president. So the president can't appoint a USPS head, right? So how it works is that instead he can appoint, a president can appoint different board governors, up to about 5 per party. So there's a total of 11 members. That includes, of course, the Postmaster General and the Deputy Postmaster General, and then 9 board members who will then go and vote for their pick for Postmaster General and the Deputy Postmaster General. And so what Biden can do is that he can at least take and fire 5 of those members. Well, he can fire all of them, but he has to, of course, appoint a mixture of Democrats and Republicans. And so he can stack this with 5 Democrats, 4 Republicans that are in favor of actually doing the post office the way that it should be done, which is as a service for the American people. Okay. And it is a necessary service. So you'd have to at least find 4 Republicans who aren't vastly against the post office. I mean, good luck with that. But at least you could have 5 Democrats that are in favor of it and can overrule the Republicans. And so it is, like I said, slightly complicated. But here's what they would need to do. I mean, right now, Biden has nominated 3 people. Okay. Nominate 3 people. Why not go fire 2 more that are pro-Trump and then have 5 Democrats on the board? That would make sense. Okay. But there is a slight problem. And that's, of course, any nominee has to be confirmed by the Senate. Democrats do have kind of a majority in the Senate. So, I mean, it is what it is. There are technically enough Democratic votes to do a simple majority. That's if, and I'm not entirely sure if, you know, they can do this without having to face a Republican filibuster on this appointee. I'm not entirely 100% sure on that. There's not a lot of information about how it actually works, which is frustrating. But okay, if they don't have to be, you know, if they don't have to face a filibuster, then all you'd have to do is get Manchin and Sinema on board to go and nominate somebody, a Democrat, to take over this position. Should be simple enough, right? It shouldn't be one of these big fights that's ideological in nature. Essentially, you say, I have a Democrat that believes in the post office. I will appoint said Democrat, and all you have to do is approve it. Now, if you end up actually having to face a filibuster, well, then the only way to get your appointees through, no matter what you do, even if you just leave it at the 3, is to destroy the filibuster. And that actually makes it even more of a fight. And this makes it much more politically contentious. And then if they decide not to, in that case, end the filibuster, then you're going to have Postmaster DeJoy that is going to continue being in power until his term is up. So, I mean, that's the situation. That's how it works. I know a lot of you have been wondering why, you know, Biden doesn't just fire DeJoy. He can't. He doesn't actually have the authority to do so, and has to go through appointing these governors. And the governors, of course, have to be on board with getting rid of DeJoy. And by the way, some of the Democrats that are on the board also supported DeJoy's nomination. So they supported DeJoy being, a postmaster general. And they voted him, voted for him. And so that's somebody that you would also want to get rid of if you had somebody that could take their place that actually does believe in the post office. So again, that is frustrating. But for me, if I could do this, and if we have a simple majority, which we do, then let's get rid of them and save the post office. Get rid of the people who support DeJoy. So, you know, and then appoint people to get rid of DeJoy, and then finally bring the post office back. Just bring the post office back, because we need it. We need it. This guy is absolutely corrupt. He has been plagued with scandal over his entire tenure, trying to help Trump slow down the ballots so that they would not get counted for this election. We need to get rid of this guy. And so this is the latest thing that he's done that is absolutely corrupt. And it just so happened to, of course, help him pick, line his pockets. If the Democrats want to save the post office, so get to it. Because you know what? You can't count on having the Senate and being able to eliminate the filibuster if it comes to it for much longer. 2022, you ain't got a lot of time, and the post office is getting dismantled as we speak. Let's do it. Democrats, go. You're on the clock. There are acting board members, Tempedan. Absolutely. That's true. That's true. That is one thing that I forgot to mention. Actually, I think at this point, there are acting governors on the board. I know there were during Barack Obama's administration. there were acting members because the Senate wouldn't confirm. That's, of course, while, Mitch McConnell had the Senate and so was able to block any nominees. So, again, it all comes down to, of course, Republicans blocking the hell out of anything Democrats do. And it still amazes me, by the way, that there are, that there are Democrats out there. Joe Biden's like, oh, no. The fever's going to break. It ain't going to break. Ain't going to break. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.